When the parents of this morning's guest sent her off to boarding school at age 13, she never got her high school diploma. But the governor of North Carolina didn't care when he asked her to be part of his cabinet. Meet Dr. Gwynn Swinson, coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at grassy granite and marble on the frontage road off Highway 544 between the Intercoastal Waterway and South Carolina 31. We're focused on a true Carolina person, and we're visiting with Dr. Gwynn Swinson. The former Secretary of Administration during Governor Easley's campaign,
Yes.
During his first term and the first year of his second term, as well as the Special Assistant to the Chief Executive Officer of Duke University Health System and Duke Raleigh.
That is correct, Greg.
Golly, Gwynn, a big title there.
I'm pleased to be with you.
Thank you so much. Yes, forgive me.
Having
This
me.
is a real treat to get you down. And when I say a true Carolina person,
Yes.
of course, the real excitement for us is a Tar Heel.
That's right. I grew up in Beaufort, North Carolina, and Beaufort County is an area that's right on the Intercoastal Waterway as well. And my native hometown is called Belle Haven.
Belle Haven. Do you still have family in Belle Haven?
Yes, I do. Yes, I still have cousins in Belle Haven, and my deceased parents actually were educators in the community.
Is that right?
My dad was a principal, and my mother was a third grade teacher. And Daddy also was elected to the Board of Elections
there
in Beaufort County.
In Beaufort County.
That's right, and ultimately ascended to the chairmanship.
Now, growing up, did that spurn you to want to get interested in education or even
Yes,
possibly
it
in public service there?
It actually sparked my interest in both. I, having grown up in a family of educators, and that included my grandmother, all of my aunts and uncles as well, I had the privilege of being blessed to have been surrounded by people who were well educated and valued education and instilled the value of education in me and in my cousins. So for me, there was no option but to go on to college and to graduate school. My dad actually, interestingly enough, Greg, my daddy studied architecture at North Carolina A&T.
Is that right, in Greensboro?
State University, and then went on to get a master's in education administration at Columbia University.
At
New York
Columbia
City.
University. Wow.
Yes. And my mother also had a master's in education from Columbia.
Now, is that pretty common there in
It was
Belle Haven?
very
It's probably
uncommon.
very rare.
It was very, very rare. And interestingly enough, all three of my uncles were doctors. One was a PhD, and the other is just a recently retired MD.
Is that right?
That's right. The other
Son of a
was a
gun.
high school teacher. So having come from a background in which I was fortunate to have learned so much about the value of education and to see how education can help to transform people's lives, it therefore became an integral part of my value system.
Everything
and who I am.
You become,
That's
absolutely.
exactly right. And so therefore I knew that I had to go to college before I understood that I had to graduate from high school. Therefore, and this is something most people don't know about me, I never graduated from high school.
Oh, come on.
And it was a very, very big source of, I would just say, discontent with my dad.
Yeah.
I never did get a high school diploma, and that is because I went to a boarding school in Maryland, a Quaker boarding school called Sandy Spring Friends School. And by the time I was 16, I had all the credits to graduate. And the headmaster said that he felt that socially I should probably stay another year. Just to make sure that I was mature enough to go on to college. And I felt that the private school tuition, a Quaker boarding school up north in Maryland, was such that it wasn't fair for Daddy to have to pay another year of tuition. So unbeknownst to him, I applied to and got myself accepted and admitted to Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio.
In Ohio, that's right.
Yes, and
wow.
Antioch had a history of working with the Underground Railroad, and Coretta Scott King was a graduate.
Is that right? Coretta Scott King was a graduate of, is that right?
Of Antioch College.
That's fascinating.
That's right. And so she actually was a role model for me and inspired me to apply to Antioch College and matriculate there. So that's how I ended up in
Exciting,
Yellow
man.
Springs,
Yeah,
where the
yeah.
Underground Railroad went through Ohio.
That is fascinating. Did you have brothers and sisters growing up?
No, I was an only child.
You're an only child.
That is correct.
That right?
And so my family, again, my dad and mom gave me the absolute best of every opportunity that a child could have had.
Well, I'm hearing some fascinating, stark similarities between you and my father. If you
That
know,
is
he's
very
an only
true.
child.
Yes.
Of course, went off to prep school at age 15 to Phillips Exeter up in wherever, somewhere up north, and enjoyed his time. I can't say he didn't get a high school degree, but I know he had skipped 3rd, 8th, and 11th grades, and so he would have been in the class there at Durham High School, and then later, of course, up at Exeter.
There are actually some very distinct similarities in your dad's and my upbringing.
Absolutely.
And he, of course, is one of my personal and professional role models.
I think he said it's the other way around, Gwynn. I think you
well,
to
I'm
him,
honored.
You to him, very
I am
definitely.
honored and flattered.
Well, we'll get into some of that a little later today, and hopefully, if you're willing to come back, obviously it was a big trip, and we'll talk more about your deep triangle roots now in just a minute. If you're willing to come back and be with us tomorrow as well.
I will be happy to do so. It would be my pleasure.
That'd be great,
Yes.
absolutely. What about, we speak about that, the triangle roots. You spent the time there in Antioch, 3 years. Did you stay in Ohio after graduation?
No, I did not. And as a matter of fact, Antioch had a very unique work-study program, which is what attracted me to it.
Right.
I must say to Daddy's great dismay that he wanted me to come and get a degree at a school in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So hence I ultimately came back and got a graduate law degree from the Duke Law School.
That's right,
and he
in
said to me,
86, I saw
I
that.
meant for you
Yeah.
to get a degree from a North Carolina school. Duke is not a North
Duke
Carolina
is
school.
not.
It is of North Carolina,
Yeah.
but it just happens to be in it. But
Right.
It's not really of the culture of North
That's
Carolina.
great.
So that was another sore spot after I didn't get the high school diploma. And but on the other hand, obviously I graduated college and went on to Antioch Law School in Washington, D.C. So that's how I left Ohio, Greg.
Yes.
And I went immediately into law school and did the 3 years there and graduated at the age of 23 from the Antioch Law School. It's hard to believe now I have been a member of the bar going into 32 years.
Wow, I wasn't going to date you there by saying how many
Yes.
years that was.
Been
I've
almost
got to
32
ask,
years.
I hate to ask, what year did your father pass away?
In 1997.
And I only asked that because I saw that, of course, in the last couple of years, you'd gotten a doctor, a special doctor there at North Carolina A&T.
I did. And
of which I'm sure he would have been overly thrilled about.
well, actually, when I got it, it was in '86, so he was still living.
Oh, okay, great.
And I
Forgive
did it
me,
for him.
missed
I
that.
actually gave it to him. I had it framed and gave it to him.
Wow.
And he kept it with him until he passed. It was for him that I got the degree at Duke.
How exciting.
Yes, it was the Master of Laws degree.
Well, of course, so rarely do folks think of attorneys as doctors, but with a Juris Doctorate, you've got it. You got it, I'm sure, followed up with your LLM there at Duke, as
That's
you
right.
mentioned, in '86, and then the special doctor there at North Carolina A&T.
And that was an honor and a privilege, and especially for me, Greg, to have received an honorary Doctor of Humanities from North Carolina A&T State University, because that was my daddy's alma mater.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Very
And so, anyway, go Aggies.
Go Aggies.
They are
Listen up.
Aggies.
Well, of course, as you know, the bulk of our viewers are in the PD and southeastern North Carolina. So UNC Pembroke and some other schools in North Carolina are obviously have that opportunity to tune in. And we love to be filming down here in Myrtle Beach, but at the same time, we've got to be cognizant
of your audience in North Carolina.
That's exactly right.
And let me say this. I have had the pleasure of spending a fair amount of time on the campus of UNC at Pembroke.
Is that right?
When I was in office as Secretary of Administration, one of my functions was to collaborate with the chancellors of each of the UNC constituent institutions, of which there are 16.
16,
And
right.
so I had the opportunity to visit with and spend some time on diversity. I did a dialogue on diversity and a couple of talks on the Walk of Hope, I think it was called, at UNC Pembroke at the time. And that campus, by the way, is the campus that is noted for being the most diverse in the entire UNC system.
Is that right?
That's right,
Because
yes.
of the Native American population
That's
as well
right.
as the African American
And
population.
the Hispanic population.
Okay, I hadn't thought about that.
That's right,
Yes.
yes.
Well, we hear about it. Of course, it's one of the most diverse counties in North Carolina, of the 100 counties, with the third Native American, third African American, and third Caucasian. It must have a sizable Hispanic community as well.
Indeed, it does. So it is a fascinating place to visit. And I've spent a lot of time working, actually, with the Native American folks in Lumberton.
The Lumbee
The
Indians,
Lumbee
yes.
Indians in particular. And the Secretary of Administration sits ex officio on the Indian Affairs Commission. which is
right?
housed in the Department of Administration. So I had a chance to become an honorary member of a couple of tribes, and actually to dance at powwows and things of that nature.
Oh, really?
Had a chance to learn a lot more about the indigenous culture of this country. It's amazing what the span of duties entailed when I worked as Secretary of Administration.
Yeah, very definitely. Let's talk. Of course, we're fast forwarding a little bit from essentially getting your law degree there at age 23 from Antioch when you were there in Washington, all the way to virtually the present, 5, 6, 7 years ago when you took over as Secretary of Administration. But let's jump into that. What was that like, and how did you? Is that something you pursued, or is that something that Governor Easley pursued you for?
Yeah, actually, it was interesting. I worked with Governor Easley for the 2 terms that he served as North Carolina's Attorney General.
Okay.
And during the course of that time, we had a chance to work together very, very closely. I actually did a fair amount of speech writing for him.
Really?
In the early part of his 2nd term. And he was very, very, I think, how would you say, very much a person who influenced my thinking and my way of speaking in public. For example, and this is just a sidebar, but your viewers may find it interesting. The governor helped me understand that the attention of the public in today's world of the internet and with so much media going on is that the public's attention is limited pretty much to the length of a soundbite. And so therefore he taught me in writing for him not to go on and on and on, as lawyers would tend to do, and to overspeak in writing his talking points.
Right.
So he wanted clear and crisp sentences.
And relatively short,
and
yes.
Very, very
good for him.
short.
Well, he sounds like an English teacher, though. I mean, that's oftentimes English teachers would push for shortening your sentences. I know in proofreading the Herald on Wednesdays, yesterday, we go through those efforts of trying to cut down some very long run-on sentences of certain writers for the paper, and oftentimes it's easy, sometimes it's very difficult to do, so I'm sure that was tough.
Well, it came in handy, you see, when he ran for re-election for the 2nd term as Attorney General. I started working with him on these talking points and so forth and so on. And I took on some special projects for the governor. At that time, we had a rash of church burnings in the South, here in South Carolina as well as in North Carolina. And I established a task force at his request to look into this basically racial hatred and the hate crimes that were going on.
And these were all churches of
They were churches primarily of people of color.
Right.
But some of them were not. There were a couple of synagogues as well. And so these hate crimes were obviously intolerable. As then Attorney General Easley said, we have zero tolerance for this type of racial hatred. So we formed a task force and worked at North Carolina Central University to bring together pretty much a summit. And this was a summit of the clergy, interdenominational clergy throughout the eastern part of the state where this was going on. And we had a few pastors actually from here in South Carolina who joined us. And that was the first time I had an opportunity to work on the campus of North Carolina Central University in the Triangle.
Yes,
where
of
you're
course,
there.
in Durham, where a lot of folks know.
And where you grew up.
Absolutely, and still have deep roots. And of course, you know, my 2 brothers and 2 sister-in-laws are there in Durham and love it. And it's a great area. But that's also where Governor Easley got his law degree.
Interestingly enough, I'm glad that you pointed it out. I met Governor Easley right after he graduated from North Carolina Central's law school.
Is that right?
And he refers to himself as a very proud legal eagle.